Thank you, Mike. I actually didn't hear a word of what Mike just said, but I'm going to assume it's complimentary, so thank you. And hello, everyone. So hopefully all of us in the room kind of appreciate that there is a problem with attention to advertising. Obviously, Mike's done a great job on the circuit for the last few years, telling us that just because an ad has an opportunity to be seen, it doesn't necessarily mean that it will be seen. And of course, in the context of today's landscape, in the context of today's landscape, old version of a deck, shouldn't have had that cringe bit, where the average person is estimated to be exposed to 5,000 commercial messages a day, then of course, what really are the chances of each and every one of those ads going on to be seen, let alone going on to actually be effective for us? And what are those chances? Well, through eye-tracked measurement, we now know not very good, in fact. So in terms of desktop display, for example, we know that 89% of those ads just aren't seen. So the significant majority are just not looked at all. And I guess this is where we would think, or perhaps hope, that this is where viewability steps in to help us out and sort of sort that wheat from the chaff, as it were. But sadly not. So of that same inventory bucket, of those that are classified as MRC viewable, still 81% of those go on to be entirely unseen. So once we know that, we know we need to do something to better serve our brands, because we can't knowingly throw a potential 81% of a campaign away. So that's what we've looked to do. So back in 2017, Dentsu launched this multi-year research program called the Attention Economy to help us do just that. It's something we're heavily invested in, so you might have seen us talk about it in other settings, and I guess apologies if so. It's just that it is something we're incredibly passionate about, and we're very committed to that journey of learning and application when it comes to attention. So for the purposes of today's session, I'm going to share with you where we are with our digital and social portion of that study. So we have already this sort of not insignificant attention data set, which is sort of helping us to better navigate those channels. So I'm going to share a few key highlights, and really through the lens of how it's gone on to inform our approach to attention, and in particular a new capability which we've just launched. So first of all, the study helped us really address that debate which is still sort of ensuing in our industry around the importance of attention, and in fact whether it's even essential at all. And I think when we switch up the language, it kind of makes that a bit simpler for us, because inherently we know that looking and or listening to an ad has to be important. But we were sort of fortunate through our research to be able to see firsthand how more is more generally when it comes to attention and outcomes. So the greater the volume of attention paid, the greater the impact on that outcome. And here you can see that example on recall, but actually we found the same to be true across all three of the different outcomes that we've measured for to date. We also, of course, saw that the volume of attention varied significantly by different sets of media circumstances and situations. And here we've bucketed it by channel and format, and you can see there's a really big disparity there. And, that's absolutely what we would expect. We've long been saying, not all impressions are equal, and of course that's absolutely true. It's just that by having that data, it helps us to really start to better quantify that. And across all the different channels and formats that we looked at, we also saw again that viewability didn't always correlate as neatly with attention as we would like it to. So if we were buying viewability kind of with an assumption, that there would be some level at least of attention paid, we can see that that's not necessarily the case. And in fact, in most instances, you can see that it would be an overestimation of the attention paid, and that's particularly pronounced with display. But actually, we also found the reverse to be true in a couple of instances for social video as well, where in fact the ads were classified as MRC unviewable, but in fact there was some level of eye gaze, albeit briefly. So you could argue that in fact it's sort of underserving those channels in some instances. But really the key outtake there is just that, you know, we can't be using viewability assuming it's doing a bit of an attention job for us, because as you can see, it's really not. And I guess if any more evidence is sort of needed on that particular point, you know, it kind of follows that if a viewable ad isn't necessarily looked at, a viewable ad isn't necessarily going to be as effective as well. And so here we're able to see that ads that attention were paid to, they were a 6 times better predictor of brand choice than ads that were just simply viewable. So really it is attention that's helping bring us closer to that effective exposure that we're all after. But I guess more interesting to us in this research was really building out our understanding how not just the volume of attention varies in different sets of circumstances, but also how the power of that attention varies as well. And here, you know, we're just using a cut of the video data just to sort of bring that to light. But here we can see that each second of a voluntary video view, so where you had the opportunity to swipe past or skip, was more powerful than each second of a forced video view. So that's really important, because just as we say, you know, not all impressions are equal, the same is true of attention as well, and we really believe we need to account for that. But in fact, looking at any one-dimensional benchmark in isolation is going to be problematic. So if we stick with that video example, yes, we know each second of a voluntary view is more powerful than a forced. However, we also know that we tend to get greater volumes of attention with a forced video view, because the ad generally is going to play out for longer and eye gaze will wander, but then it will also return again. So really the key is to establish, you know, which is the best route to maximise for effective attention. So one brand, you know, might be able to get good volumes of attention from a voluntary view, and in which case that's a great route to maximise effect. Another brand might get such little volume of attention from a voluntary view because people just aren't choosing to watch it, and in which case the forced view is going to better help that brand maximise for effect. So we believe it's about having a dynamic approach that considers as many of those variables and nuances simultaneously in order to best maximise for effective attention. And this is what we've looked to do with our new capability, which has very recently just launched, Effective Attention. And we're using that to help us measure and in turn optimise for effective attention, essentially. And that's a proposition that runs across both digital but also social channels as well. And how it essentially works is that we've translated that attention data set that we have into a predictive model which reads the ads and environmental characteristics and goes on to predict the likelihood of attention being paid or not paid. If it is paid, how long for, and then beyond that, critically, you know, how valuable is that attention going to be as well. And we really believe that this proposition is helping to really serve what is a kind of a gap in the attention market at this moment in time, because it's a proposition which is independent from a format or publisher owner. It's based and grounded in that eye-tracked observation, so it's not a qualitative measure which is then kind of a proxy that we're kind of assuming means attention is paid. We've first measured where attention is paid and built it out from that. It's giving us that breadth across those different channels, so an apples for apples kind of comparison across digital and social, and also that depth of understanding in terms of the value of attention as well, which we believe is really important. So I guess my hope from today is that, you know, across all these different, you know, speakers that you've had, you kind of come away agreeing that, yes, you know, attention is something that counts, and now by miracle of the new capabilities that are out there, can also be counted as well. And I guess for us as an industry, I think we probably are now hopefully reaching that tipping point from talking about attention a huge amount to now moving into that doing phase and embracing it as the new measure that is best helping us get that effective exposure that we're after. You know, it will get better and better, these things always do, but you know, the advantages are there for us to take advantage of today. Thanks.